According to a recent University of South Carolina study, by the year 2030, our state will need more than 100,000 additional college-educated workers to bolster the economy. But not all students are bound for traditional four-year institutions. Hands-on training, such as registered apprenticeship programs in South Carolina, has grown over 600% since 2007, and the number of individual apprentices has increased from 777 to almost 4,700 in just those 6 years, an increase of over 500%. South Carolina's largest industries, such as agriculture, manufacturing, tourism, and military, are among many providing valuable high-level skilled training for their jobs presently in demand. During the next hour, we'll discuss secondary education and other options in career and workforce development and take your questions on the topic on today's Education Insight.
Good evening, I'm Scott Hawkins and welcome to another edition of Education Insight here on ETV. Impressive numbers there as South Carolina positions itself to take advantage of existing and potential industrial investment, and we have an impressive panel to help us explore this subject in depth tonight. To my immediate left, Dr. Mig Zais, Superintendent of Education in the state of South Carolina. Cheryl Stanton with the Department of Economic Development and Workforce, DO as we call it, right? Mm-hmm. All right, and Susan Petrulik, right? And you're with the technical college system, correct?
Yes.
You have a long job title. Let's explore that real quick because we've got to focus here.
The Vice President of Economic Development for the technical college system.
And that's the overarching theme tonight, economic development and education's role in it. Let's join my co-host, Tanisha Polite, with more of our panel.
Thank you, Scott. And yes, in addition to the panelists on that side, we have some panelists over here on our social media side. First, I would like to welcome and introduce Ms. Carla Whitlock. Ms. Whitlock is the apprenticeship consultant for Apprenticeship Carolina for the South Carolina Technical College System. And then next to Mrs. Whitlock, we have Jason Broughton. Mr. Broughton is the outreach coordinator for the South Carolina State Library. And then next to him, we have the beautiful Miss Tempra Dufran, and she is a co-op student. Thank you all so much for joining us. And you all can also be a part of the show. As you know, you can connect with us via email, and our email address is educationinsight@scetv.org. You can send us those tweets with #EduInsight, and you can give us a call. Our numbers are 1-800-763-3881. Or you can call us locally at 252-1134. Scott?
Thank you, Tanisha. Dr. Zais has given me permission tonight to call him Mick, so I want to make sure everyone knows that so they don't think I'm being disrespectful. Thank you for being here, and you've made headlines talking about this very subject tonight, that we need to rethink how we prepare our young people for a workforce that is only partially here already. It's something we're trying to attract. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, there's a lot of confusing messages out there, and one thing we hear is we need more and more post-secondary education. Well, what does that mean? Most people think it means four-year college degrees. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, we have more four-year college degrees in our state than we have jobs for people who have those degrees. Cheryl's office gave us the statistics. About 30% of adults in South Carolina over the age of 25 have a four-year degree. About 16% of the jobs in our state require a four-year degree. In other words, we have a lot of people with student debt and who are underemployed, tending bar, waiting tables, and working on retail in jobs that they really don't need a four-year degree for. In fact, from the time kids enter first grade, we tell them, oh, you're going to college. And the implication is a four-year college, not a two-year college. And the other implication is, and if you don't, you're a second-class citizen and a failure. That is not only unfair to the 70% of Americans who will not attend a four-year college, it's cruel. And we need to recognize the God-given talents of every one of our students and provide a curriculum that meets their needs and their aspirations.
Cheryl, how does DO fold into that concept?
Well, in a number of important ways. Workforce development isn't a today situation. One of the companies that we met with recently told us we're developing a workforce for the next 100 years. And so a number of things that we need to do is work with our businesses and understand where the jobs are going to be and make sure that we get people into training programs, whether it's technical college programs or other training programs available in the state for the jobs we actually have, and not necessarily the training programs that they think are interesting at that moment in time. So it's a very important facilitation role, speaking with businesses, speaking with job seekers, speaking with the training providers, and making sure that all those pieces match up.
And Susan, is the challenge finding those passions and interests at a particular age or phase in life, or can it be done downstream? Or what your technical college system, you know, that's a key player in what we're going to be discussing tonight.
It's certainly recareering can take place at any point in time. But one of the things that I think that's unique about this particular time in the conversation in our state is that more and more of our companies are really interested in looking towards the youth to develop skill sets for jobs in the future. As you begin to watch folks in my age group career out and hopefully retire, we need to be replaced by individuals who have skills, and companies are increasingly willing to have the conversation about 16 to 18-year-olds.
High school is about that vocational age. I think a lot of us, I know in my generation, took an aptitude test in around 8th grade to determine what we might be best at. But you're finding now in the high schools they're helping to gently steer students in one direction, whether it's the traditional 4-year degree or a more vocational technical aspect. How do you walk that line gently without harming the confidence of the student as an individual, but also helping prepare them?
Well, I don't argue that we should have a system like they have in Europe, where at the end of 8th grade you take a test and your life's path or trajectory is plotted out for you. But I do argue that we need more options in our high school curriculum. Rightly or wrongly, by the end of 9th grade, most students have decided if a 4-year college is in their future. And if they've decided that it's not, frankly, they are uninterested in plot development in a 19th century British novel, the difference in structure between an ode and a sonnet, or what iambic pentameter means. And they know a lot of successful adults who never have to factor a polynomial, compute sine or cosine, or solve a quadratic equation. And for much of what they're learning in high school is irrelevant. And no wonder they become disengaged, disinterested, and in some cases discipline problems, because what we're forcing them to learn is not aligned with their goals and aspirations.
As State Superintendent of Education, you run the risk of saying that we have overeducated some of our people, or is there another way of looking at that?
I would say we've educated them in a way that's not appropriate for the job market. We have huge shortages of high-tech skilled people to work in our high-tech manufacturing industries and in things like automotive technician, welding, HVAC repairman. These are high-paying jobs, and we can't get enough of them. And I'm sure Cheryl can share some of the stories, but I visited with BMW and Michelin and Boeing and Fujifilm and Bosch and Nucor Steel to talk about what are the kinds of jobs that you have. Now, they do require some training after high school, but it's not a 4-year degree.
Well, we're going to want to touch on that. Let's take a visit to the high schools right now, but we'll get back to that. Helping young people explore their talents and interests before they enter the job market can save them a lot of time and perhaps their parents a lot of money. And hopefully it delivers a more competent and focused employee ready to start the career he or she really wants. Technical centers help make this possible. Let's take a look.
South Carolina has 39 career technology centers to serve students by providing programs and courses in the areas of pre-engineering, automotive technology, media arts, culinary arts, and many other career technical areas.
Our mission is to make sure our students receive the knowledge and the skills to be ready to work and live in the world in which they will live. And So consequently, career and technical education is for every child. I can't emphasize enough about those 21st century skills that are going to be necessary for our students to be successful in the world in which they are going to live and work. It's so much different than the world that we lived in. We talk about in our school often about how important it is that we don't think in terms of how we learned and what we were taught, but more in terms of what our students will be able to know and do in the world in which they will live.
The curriculum for these courses is based on real-world needs that prepare the students for direct placement into the workforce.
The advisory board in the community is ultimately important. Number one, potential employers. Number two, they tell the instructor the skill sets that they absolutely need for an employee to show up that first day. And then we're not talking only physical, but we're talking soft skills, the attitudes, the team playing, punctuality, all the things that many of the potential employees do not come that first day with. And if we feel like, again, if we can give them a 75% training for that first day, our advisory board and our community is very supportive.
These programs allow students to explore their area of interest and determine their aptitude in that area. In many cases, the student is marketable upon graduation from high school.
So a real good peek inside what's happening in the vocational avenues of our local schools. Mick, we were talking just a moment ago about, tailoring the curriculum to students who don't want to learn about the quadratic equation and those kinds of things. You were commenting while that video was playing that you've seen these and they're very successful. Tell me a little bit.
The career centers are wonderful because if you ever pick up a textbook on welding, you can see that the reading level required to understand it is a very high reading level, and there's a lot of physics and metallurgy and math involved in that. But when kids are studying it, it's applied. The way we teach math is a logic system of abstract rules to manipulate unknown quantities. But it's disconnected from real-world problems. But when guys are studying how to be an automotive technician, there's a lot of math involved.
Sure.
There's a lot of geometry and carpentry and masonry. And I challenge any of your listeners to go pick up one of these hefty textbooks that we use in our career centers. The kids are learning advanced stuff, but it's applied advanced stuff, and it leads directly to high-paying jobs. And we do partner with our technical colleges.
All right. Ms. Whitlock is with Tanisha right now, and this is something that's a part of your daily life.
It is, actually. We work with companies on a daily basis who work to register apprenticeship programs. And we work more and more with companies who actually want to go into the high schools and the career and education centers to pick those students to become their next generation of workforce for their facilities. The programs are very easy to set up. The companies actually work to find the people that they want to go through the apprenticeship programs. And by putting together the three components, the on-the-job training, the job-related education, and the scalable wage progression, a company can immediately start to build that workforce pipeline.
Okay, that's very interesting. And Temper, I know that you are a part of you're actually a co-op student. So can you tell me a little bit about your process as far as how you became involved with the program?
I started through my class in machine tool, and I had to be a second-year student for this opportunity. And I pretty much just worked my way up until I got the opportunity to get the interview, went for the interview, got the job, and then I take that class out of my schedule and then go to work.
Awesome, awesome. And so, Mr. Broughton, could you tell us a little bit about what your program does?
Working for the State Library, we connect with the academic, public, and K-12 media specialists throughout the state. So within that, when you're talking about workforce, we primarily can have a secondary role in the way of looking at choosing careers, education, literacy, and a whole host of items to look at your career options in your future. As Dr. Zayas has said, not everyone may want to go on to a four-year degree, but with that, you have a whole worldwide abundance of information to choose from on what is that you actually want to do, what you might consider wanting to do, and what is that you least like to do.
Very, very interesting. Okay, Scott?
And a reminder, folks watching at home, we have several ways for you to get a hold of us on Education Insight. Twitter, email, telephone, we've got those numbers and addresses fluting at the bottom of the screen. Be a part of this discussion. Mick said some things that are suggesting a sea change in education and how we approach it in South Carolina, and that has ramifications on down the road, the kind of ramifications that Governor Haley has been speaking to since she became governor, that this concept of mirroring the European approach to apprenticeship and preparing your workforce. Is that going to attract the kind of investment we want in this state? The argument is that it is happening as we speak, and that's a pretty strong argument. Susan?
I would absolutely agree. There's absolutely no it's absolutely perfect with the foreign direct investment that takes place in this state, that we wouldn't look for our own American model of what the European vocational educational training would look like. And I think we've had some really exciting opportunities to create programs that are robust and that are comparable in content with our European partners, but have an American flair and have an approachability and a flexibility that our companies here in South Carolina really appreciate. So I think there's a lot more for us to do there, and I think the possibilities for education here in South Carolina because of that influence will be very profound.
Yeah, Carla, how much further do we have to go in the high schools to get there?
Well, I'll tell you, we have just scratched the surface. And the beauty of what we do on a daily basis is we see these new programs forming on an almost weekly basis now. When we talk with economic development prospects looking to move into South Carolina, especially the ones who have European influence, they want to know how does K-12 education, the technical college system, and the four-year system all work together in order to get those companies the workforce pipeline that they need. And more than ever, those conversations are being had all around the state of South Carolina.
Okay. And we actually now have a question, and again, you can be a participant in the conversation, and this is a Twitter question at #EduInsight, and the question is, what is the difference between an apprenticeship and an internship? And I'm going to go to you, Ms. Whitlock, if you would just give us an explanation of the differences.
One of the major differences between an apprenticeship and what some consider an internship is that an apprenticeship has to include that scalable wage piece, which I believe Temper is actually getting a wage at her company. But that's the major difference between a true registered apprenticeship and an internship. Another big difference is the fact that once an employee, regardless of their age, completes an apprenticeship, they will receive a credential from the Department of Labor in that particular occupation. Wow. Which actually works really well because those students not only get that high school diploma, they probably will get a certificate in either mechatronics or machine tool technology or other related field. And then in some instances the students actually are going to the technical colleges to get dual enrollment credit.
Wow.
So in some instances they are well on their way to a two-year degree.
Okay. Now, does that also kind of give that student a position, or what is the probability of them receiving a position in that field once they've completed the program?
The probability is very great that that student will actually continue to work with that company, because it goes back to the fact that these companies want to build that pipeline and they want to see what those students can do and what they can learn.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Scott?
As we saw at the start of the program, workforce development is in high gear as hundreds of companies and thousands of their potential employees make that critical connection. The apprenticeship concept dates back to antiquity, we know this, but in modern South Carolina it's happening on a large scale to the benefit of those hiring and to those looking to get hired.
The word apprentice implies that the student learns under an expert. For example, you wouldn't just take your written test to fly an airplane and then go fly the airplane. You would fly that airplane with somebody seated right beside you. And our apprenticeship opportunities work exactly the same way.
Apprenticeship Carolina is part of the South Carolina Technical College's Division of Economic Development and Workforce Competitiveness. We actually work with companies to register their training programs as formalized apprenticeships.
Cooper Standard became involved with Apprenticeship Carolina through the Spartanburg Community College initially, where they were looking for people to sit on advisory panels and to help mold the basic framework for apprenticeship programs. And so from there it emerged to where we are today. And that's a very good working relationship between Spartanburg Community College and the technical centers like Daniel Morgan right here in Spartanburg.
The work experience working at Cooper Standard has been completely learning from the engineers and the technicians as far as the machines, how they operate, what they do, what makes them do what they do. It's actually very interesting.
There are 3 components of a registered apprenticeship program. There has to be on-the-job training, job-related education, and a scalable wage progression.
It's been a great opportunity for me, to get a better education for myself, to be able to market myself as a more valuable asset to my company.
We probably added 40% in sales volume in the last 2 to 3 years. And as we've done that, our skill set and the number of skilled, trained people in our skilled trades has to continue to grow. We find that hard to recruit for in the open market, and probably the best way to get people trained and to get the skills that we really want and need is through an apprenticeship program.
Currently, we are working with well over 600 South Carolina companies who've registered apprenticeship programs, and over 8,000 South Carolinians have either completed an apprenticeship program or are currently in the process of completing a program. We firmly believe that our Apprenticeship Carolina numbers, both on the company side and on the apprenticeship side, will continue to increase. Since we started in 2007, we have increased those numbers tremendously, and we hope to see those numbers grow over the next several years.
It helps Bosch in many ways, from a talent retention standpoint to workers getting trained early in their careers and becoming more productive for us, and there are even some tax incentives that help the company as well. I think it's the way to go, and I think you'll see it more and more in the future. I mean, when I think of Bosch and its inception back in 1886, it started out as 1 engineer and 1 apprentice. And there's always been that commitment over the last 127 years to workforce development and being involved in our communities. Apprenticeship Carolina helps streamline the process and ensure that we meet the goals and requirements of the program. Keeps us on track. We have 17 current apprentices and 17 that have graduated. We have some that have gone on and worked their way into supervision. And I believe Mike Bryan, who is the father of the program, was an apprentice and has been with the company 35 years. So that's probably the best example there is.
Apprenticeship Carolina has made it much easier to facilitate the process. You know, there's a lot of different areas that you have to make sure are covered. And they've gone out of the way. And it's not somebody you have to go looking for, because they usually check with us, throughout the year. Are there things that you need? How are things going? How about your graduates? How are they doing? And just doing a lot of follow-up. So it's a wonderful partnership.
The process is extremely easy for companies to register a program, but it does require some commitment from human resources managers, training managers, production managers at the facility sites. In South Carolina, we have a growing number of European-owned companies that are either already have a presence here or are looking to move here. A lot of those companies wish to model their apprenticeship programs as closely as they can to their parent companies in Europe. An apprenticeship program actually works very well for a company in order to formalize those training processes, just to ensure that not only current employees, but any employees that are going forward can have the same type of training, and so that those employees are trained the way the companies want them to be trained.
The salaries beside those job titles.
I don't know if your mic was on, but you were saying we need the salaries beside those job titles. Mick, are they good?
People don't understand how high paying those jobs are. Kids come right out of high school and make more than their teachers do.
I bet the teachers love that. And you might be getting some emails at the office Monday morning.
These high-tech manufacturing jobs are really, they're not easy jobs. For example, you heard the term mechatronics. Nobody knows what that means, but let me explain. In high-tech manufacturing, the work is done by robots. But you need somebody to program the computers that control the robots, to maintain them. And when the robots break, you need somebody to fix them. That means electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and hydraulic engineering.
Yeah, hold that thought. We're gonna explore that. We have a taped piece we're gonna get into. Mechatronics is you're right. No one's heard of it before, but it's gonna be a household word, I suspect, in South Carolina if these programs are successful. And you were mentioning the Wall Street Journal has put us. Proudly, has put us on the map in this arena.
It really has in ways that have been unexpected. And I can say with a considerable amount of pride that my Apprenticeship Carolina staff, Carlo being one of them, has done an amazing job over the last 3 years. We are the fastest growing apprenticeship program in the United States. We've been invited to the White House twice in the past 2 years, once for a youth apprenticeship program that we worked on with Tognam in the Aiken area, and then again just to kind of talk with them about the very customized design and demand driven apprenticeship programs that we create for companies here. So we've enjoyed an awful lot of press as a result of the work we've been doing.
In fact, 3 weeks ago the Wall Street Journal had a lead story on the business section that South Carolina's apprenticeship is an exemplar for the rest of the nation. Is so good.
All right. Well, we have some interest in that, and Tanisha has a question from our audience.
Yes, I do, and this is an email question. Remember, you can also participate in the conversation. This email says, how can my child find out about available opportunities through apprenticeships and internships? And we're going to go to Ms. Whitlock here and have her answer that question for our email viewer.
I'm sure there are a lot of parents out there that want to know the answer to that question. The best way that they can do that is to get in contact with either a guidance counselor or career counselor at either the high school or the Career and Technology Center. And as far as an apprenticeship program, what's very important to realize is we've only been really hitting the youth apprenticeship piece for about 6 months. So we may not have made it to their particular school district yet, but we're on our way. But I think for the parents, that's the best option right now, is to talk with the guidance counselors or the Career and Technology Center counselors as well.
Okay. And Temper, can you tell us how you exactly, found out about the apprenticeship and your experience?
So far, I have found out about my co-oping jobs and apprenticeships through my machine tool teacher. He's told me about 3 or 4 different ones, but then I found SEW. Most people that I tell that I am in a co-op job, they don't really know what that is, and then I'll explain it to them, they're like, oh, they'll be like, that is good. They really want to find out about a whole bunch of that, but you just have to be in the right classes for it.
Exactly, and we're going to see a little bit as far as what you do, which is very, very interesting to me as well. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on here.
Right here, changing out pinions is what they're called. They're in a gearbox is what we make. Pulling them down, and then I'm lasering them, or putting the serial number on them. And then I take them out and I put them in those baskets, and those baskets get over to the machine behind me, and they'll be washed. And there's about 1,300 on each of those whiteboards, and I have to do all of them. Very fun.
Oh my God, this is amazing.
How long have you been working at SCW?
Next week will be my 3rd week going on.
Temper, does it make you nervous working with big, expensive equipment like that? I know where I work, I'm not allowed to touch anything.
Whenever I started working there, my mind was, it was really crazy for me to capture everything, but knowing some of the people that I work with and then just getting a handle on everything, I just kind of get used to it. I can't really touch any of the big machines because I haven't really been trained on them yet.
What are you doing here, if I may interrupt?
Right here I'm washing trays. These are what the gears lay on whenever they're being shipped out to different parts of the company. They're turned by those pinions that I was labeling, and pretty much you have to pick it up, put them in the trays, I guess you could say, the trays that hold the trays, and they'll be turned throughout the machine and just wash, take them out. You have to turn them every other one, put them in those piles, and then
this is a new job there too for you, right?
Yes.
All right. And what have your bosses said? How do you interact with your supervisor? Do you feel like you've made it? You've arrived? Do you see yourself doing this for several more years, a career?
These starting jobs, I hope I don't have to do for very much longer, but with this company, I hope I stay for many years to come.
That's good to hear. And we saw, I know you weren't comfortable coming to the studio and being on TV, but you're doing a great job, and your comfort level in that video is very high. Panel, is she she's obviously a good example of the program you're here to talk about and you're here to promote. Are they all that successful?
I think a big part of making sure that something like this is successful is a combination of not only making sure that you have talented people going into it, but that you are letting them see that it is a place that they can work long term, that there are other people like them in the workforce, but also giving them the skills they need to do it. Things like Temper is fantastic. She knows how to look you in the eye and talk to you. She knows how to show up to work on time.
The soft skills.
The soft skills. And I think there are some instances where we are not giving people soft skills in the front instance that they need, but programs like Apprenticeship Carolina make sure that happens first, and that's what makes a big difference.
Right. And on the phone right now, Sarah from Abbeville. Sarah, we understand you have a question about programs like these as they relate to students with physical disabilities. Are you there, Sarah?
Yes. Hi. I'm a middle school special ed teacher, and I was wondering what opportunities there would be for students with disabilities within these programs.
Who on our panel wants to take that?
I'll fill that one.
Carla can, I'll help her.
Apprenticeships are open to all individuals. So her son or daughter would have the opportunity to go in to an apprenticeship program if there are apprenticeships available in her area.
I wasn't absolutely. Okay. And I'll take it a step further too. There are also a number of programs that, for the employer side, when they are hiring individuals, particularly through an apprenticeship program, for on-the-job training reimbursement. So apprenticeship is very good because it allows you to have taxable credits, right? Well, there are certain programs regarding on-the-job training that if you have certain individuals who you hire with employment barriers, disabilities, someone who has gone through vocational rehab, not only will the employer get the tax credits, but they actually get reimbursement for the on-the-job training component of it. And if the employer is already participating in a registered apprenticeship program, that's exactly the type of training that they can get reimbursement for. So there are all these ways to bring different pieces together to make sure not only businesses are succeeding, but also people are getting jobs.
And I guess I would add to that, that often people have an image of apprenticeship as only being involved in advanced manufacturing. The truth of it is that the apprenticeship programs that we're building here in South Carolina include advanced manufacturing, but also healthcare, IT, banking, hospitality and tourism. So there are plenty of different places where a student might be placed for an apprenticeship.
This is a concept that can apply to a number of arenas. We at the top of the program, we had some statistics. For instance, one that resonates with me because in my day job I work for the Forestry Commission. Agriculture and forestry combined in this state have a $34 billion impact on the state's economy. The military, known for its own institutional in-house training, how has the military dovetailed into what you're doing, or is that something you still need to explore?
I think we as a state in the last year to 2 years has done a tremendous job of finally coming together with a number of different groups to serve our vets. I don't know if you saw recently, we went from a 6.9 unemployment rate to our veterans to 4.1. I mean, an astonishing 6th lowest in the country. That only happened because finally the different groups came together. National Guard, apprenticeship, the tech colleges. And the biggest challenge we often find with vets coming into the workforce is not that they don't have the skills, it's not that they're not able to do the jobs, it's translating the skills that they have and helping them adapt and transfer into a civilian workforce.
And it's a perfect, apprenticeship is a perfect transition for our transitioning military. Very important part.
These are very major players in the state's economy, military, ag and forestry, as I mentioned, which are technical in their way. Obviously, what we've seen tonight really is tailor-made for manufacturing, but what about something like tourism, which gets a lot of press about its importance to the state's economy? I don't see, on the surface, as a layperson, I don't see a big connection between the apprenticeship programs and this workforce development and the traditional tourism jobs we see, which are a lot of service industry type jobs and that kind of thing.
Well, I'll take a stab at it, and then Carla might want to join me if that's something that we can do. But I do think that that's an untapped area for us. And I think that we have some sales work to do with employers in those arenas. But I'm very clear that turf management, for example, would be an excellent place to have apprenticeship programs. So I think one of the things as we've had to do as Apprenticeship Carolina consultants is to sell the idea. And that's a sector, an industry sector, that we're going to have to work on.
And for those of you who that's not intuitive to, by turf management, I think she means golf course.
I do. I really do.
All right. Carla,
Yes.
would you like to add to that? And
Sure.
Then Mick wants to chime in.
Sure. I'd just like to echo what Susan said, and just to remind your audience, there are over 1,000 different occupations that can be registered. And those occupations are everything from manufacturing to healthcare to hospitality and tourism, energy and related industries, IT, but there are a number of different areas. Culinary, I know you all showed a video earlier of a culinary program. Culinary is another one that can be registered. But again, we need to do a better job of selling those. I cover the upstate for Apprenticeship Carolina, so 98% of what I do is in manufacturing, but there are other areas that can be apprenticed as well.
And Mick?
I was going to say that our 39 high school career and technology centers across the state have programs in the culinary arts. And with tourism such a big industry in South Carolina, there is a big demand for people who have that skill set.
All right. Tanisha, you have a question from the audience.
Yes, I do. And the question is, when I get an apprenticeship relationship with a company, will I be with that company forever? Or what are my chances of finding another job with another company if my skills are so specialized on that one company that I started with? That's a good question. Any of our panelists want to take a stab at it, Ms. Whitlock?
Sure, I'll take it because we talk to companies about these types of things every day and talk to some of the employees as well. Once an employee is registered as an apprentice, they will have the benefit of the on-the-job training, the job-related education, and the scalable wage progression. And like I said earlier, once they complete that apprenticeship program, they will get a credential in that particular occupation. And that credential can actually be transferred in between companies. But I will say companies tell us on a regular basis that the employees who are actually enrolled in an apprenticeship program actually stay. And they are there for the long haul. But if an employee is enrolled as an apprentice, they will get that credential that is transferable.
Okay. And may I ask, how do employers or different companies find out about apprenticeships and things of that nature so that they can get involved in finding someone to participate, like Temper?
Well, we actually work directly with the companies to register their training programs as apprenticeships. It's left up to the company to actually hire the individual for the apprenticeship program, or in some instances, the companies actually use the apprenticeship program as a way for an employee to move up within the organization. But it's up to the company to decide who goes into an apprenticeship program. If the company would like to learn more about the Apprenticeship Carolina program, they're welcome to go to our website. There are 5 other individuals who do what I do across the state, and we're actually situated within the different technical college areas.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to ask you, Mr. Broughton, what is the relationship between what you do and apprenticeship opportunities? And tell us a little bit about how you help or assist students with finding apprenticeships.
One of the things that the State Library did a while back is create a website called WorkSC, and what it tries to do is be a comprehensive site of information from start to finish, from pre-beginning the job market all the way through retirement if you actually want to do so. One of the things that we try to highlight that is there within it is a correlation with items that come with on-the-job training specifically. Other items are some assessments that help people to kind of find out what they want to do before they get into a job market. When it comes to young people, though, specifically, we always are trying to tout throughout the entire library system of the state, from academic, K through 12, and the public library specifically, what is it that the state is doing currently that can be most effective in helping you find a future benefit. So right now, there's a lot of things that we're doing throughout the state where people are looking for a lot of career change specifically. We have a lot of people who are about to graduate into a new market, and those who are going on to the technical college system or into the four-year system, to just kind of always have a secondary choice. When I was growing up, one of the things that my parents wanted to say was that you should have a white-collar job and a blue-collar job. So I would say if I ever lost my job right now at the State Library, one of the things that I would do is probably sign up for culinary arts, because I'm a certified baker. So with that, one of the things that you want to do is make sure that you have a backup plan. It's kind of good to always make sure you're diversified educationally and talent-wise. And our state is trying to kind of push that to say, well, we have a lot to offer. What is it that you can do on various levels?
Okay, thank you very much. Scott?
Blue collar and white collar jobs, and he's got a red collar on. So he's got a third career he's not telling us about. Thank you. You wanted to talk a little bit about the upward mobility that's inherent in the programs, because on the face of it, it seems like, well, yeah, we can tailor an education and we can shape a young person into a particular job, and then what happens if that foreign investor moves on to another state, or the technology changes and leaves that child, or that young adult or that employee in the lurch?
Well, I'd say 2 things. First of all, those certifications are very mobile. I mean, if you get a certification in welding or mechatronics or automotive technician or electrician or whatever it is, there's a lot of companies wanting your skills. In fact, a factory owner in the upstate was telling me, every time I hear about a new company opening in the upstate area, I worry about it because I'm afraid they're going to steal my workers, and I'm having a hard time replacing them. The other thing is, there are entry-level positions within high-tech manufacturing, but you're able to move up within the organization, and you broaden your scope of responsibilities and improve your paycheck as you gain seniority.
And temper our young guests on, across the way here. It mentioned that, you know, she knows she's in an entry-level job, and she's saying she doesn't want to be doing this forever.
And you move up to supervision and management, and you know, you got a career there if you want.
All right, we have a question from the outside world, and we really appreciate our viewers taking part in tonight's conversation. Tanisha?
Yes, and the question reads, I come from a time where brick masonry was a popular trade. However, in the vocational and career centers, it has almost completely disappeared. Are jobs like brick masonry no longer in demand?
I don't think that's possible.
I can tell you that in all of our career centers across the state, and you heard there's 39 of them that are aligned with our high schools, almost all of them have programs in masonry. And again, I was looking at that textbook. This is not trivial stuff. I was amazed at how complex it is.
Yeah.
And those are high-paying jobs, and there's a shortage of them.
Yeah. There's so much talk in the world about how brick and mortar stores are going by the wayside as everyone does their shopping on online, but that doesn't mean brick masonry is leaving. That just means stores are changing the way they interface with customers. We've talked a lot about technology and being overtrained or thoroughly trained in one particular aspect of technology, and where does that leave the employee when things change. We know manufacturers want a highly skilled labor force, but on today's factory floor, the employee likely needs a multidisciplinary grasp of the job at hand. Mechatronics, as Mick mentioned earlier, addresses this cross-training tailored for problem solving in a high-tech environment. Let's take a look.
Mechatronics is a field of study that covers multiple disciplines, including electrical, mechanical, electromechanical, hydraulics, and pneumatics. We've worked on it from the state of South Carolina for the last 5 years to be proactive in meeting the technology needs in our area, and the mechatronics allows us to do that.
Now, in a highly automated factory, we're hiring just one person that's performing several different duties. This one person is able to program the programmable logic controller. They're able to troubleshoot a pneumatic valve. They're able to replace a motor. Instead of having several different people performing different job functions, we've got one person that understands the entire process, and they're able to work on different parts of the process, which makes the one person a more valuable employee.
The mechatronics is systems-based learning and also hands-on based learning. And the goal is to get students to learn an adaptive capability. They learn on one system, and they can quickly, or they have the mental agility to transfer that knowledge onto another system or from our classroom into the manufacturing facility.
What we're seeing is at Piedmont Tech, a lot of these students that are coming in, and of course a lot of the jobs that are available out in industry are requiring someone that has skills in mechatronics. So naturally, you know, that's a natural fit for students coming in. They want to go where the jobs are, so they're going into a field that we see as continues to climb for us at Piedmont Tech.
The first question we get from prospective industries when they come to Lawrence County is the labor available to be able to make the products that they make, and that's the number one question. Every state's got a good site. Every state gives incentives, but every state also has labor questions, and the first state that can solve that problem is going to be the winner.
5 years ago, BMW came to the technical college system and had a situation that they needed to work on. The mechatronics, or industrial maintenance is what we were calling it at the time. The curriculum for industrial maintenance was not the same across the 5 upstate technical colleges, that being Tri-County Tech, Spartanburg Community College, Piedmont Tech, York Tech, and Greenville Tech. They really needed to have workers with the same skill base that they were hiring from the region when they came in to start. So they worked with Duke Energy's Advanced SC to fund a program to get the curriculums all the same and to upgrade the programs both in the credit side and the non-credit side. And I think that's really helped us get to where we are today with our mechatronics program.
Demand for this is going to be even greater because as we see technology change, that change in technology requires a new set of skills. We're moving more to a mind-based or mental-based job force than we are a bank-based. And what I mean by that is it was all labor. Now it's a mental process by making equipment do what it's supposed to do because of the robotics and the other portions of electronic engineering that's taking place.
Going out, whether it's to the high schools or going out to different job fairs, and really pushing mechatronics and showing that there are jobs available in the mechatronics arena, but it's really just getting the word out, not only to the potential students, but to their parents as well.
Now we're coming back. Mechatronics obviously can apply to a number of different fields because it's more of a concept than a skill, right? We have Shannon from Gaffney on the phone who's watching tonight. Shannon, you had a question that we're all interested in, and it involves the pay scale for some of this. Shannon, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, tell our panel what your question is, and we'll find the best person to answer it.
Yes, I was just curious what the pay scale is for someone that is in the mechatronics.
Okay, what am I hearing? 22 to 25? Do I hear 30?
As an entry level, you can make somewhere somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. But I will tell you, you put your finger on it, and these are not your old textile mills where you walk in and you start capping bottles like you saw in Laverne and Shirley. These are very high tech, very safe, very clean, in many instances extremely quiet facilities, but it's complicated. Last summer, not long after I started, Susan and I went to one of the companies that we've been working with, and Susan made me take the assessment test. And I have to tell you, I don't have a backup job.
Blue collar, white collar.
I don't have a backup job because I couldn't pass the assessment test.
Sure.
I mean, it is a very difficult, it takes training, it takes both physicality but also a mental capacity, and so it is not just putting I always go back to Laverne and Shirley. It's not just putting the bottles on the caps on the bottles. It's much more sophisticated.
And that 50,000 entry level is pretty standard. In some it's more. Welding, there's a huge shortage of welders.
$80,000.
People who have a certificate to do welding in the nuclear industry make over $100,000 a year.
$120,000.
Automotive technicians, if you can master the computers, that's over $100,000 a year at the upper end. This is high-paying jobs.
Those are journeyman trades you're talking about, too. You mentioned, while one of the tape segments was rolling, Mick, that for every one airframe guy that Boeing might hire, they've got how many X number of electricians?
Well, I was saying that for about every electrical engineer out of Clemson University that Boeing hires, there's 30 guys who are trained electricians who are doing the wiring in the assembly of our aircraft. For every mechanical engineer that Boeing hires, or some of these other companies like BMW, there's 30 guys who are doing the mechanical work to assemble these complex products.
And as well, and you know, Cheryl's staff and my staff, particularly on the Ready SC side, work very closely helping companies in the state like Michelin and Bridgestone and Continental to recruit those mechatronics associates. It's incredibly competitive, and companies have to look sometimes 10 or 15 applicants just to find that one technology match. So it's very, very competitive out there in terms of hiring.
For a lot of kids, sitting behind a desk every day doing the same thing, or even working in a library, would be the kiss of death.
Don't get up. Don't do that.
But the point is, one size doesn't fit all. And there's a lot of people like to make things and do things and see a visible product, and you get an instant reward from that. And we ought to honor those God-given talents and those preferences of all of our students, not just those who are bound for elite universities.
Okay.
And we also have to give them that opportunity. We have to let them know it's out there. And get the businesses into the schools and tell the kids and their parents, but more importantly the guidance counselors, which the apprenticeship program is a crucial part of that, to tell them how great these jobs are and how they could be the right fit for them.
All right. You say elite universities, and we've got just a little bit of time there. And I want to be just briefly devil's advocate for the traditional four-year liberal arts, humanities-based education. That's what I aspired to, because growing up, like you mentioned earlier in the show, there's a whole generation of us, you went to college, you got that four-year degree, and that opened up all sorts of doors. Are we saying that those doors aren't opening as much in the South Carolina that we know today?
Well, Scott, first of all, I was a liberal arts college president for 10 years.
I think we know where that school is. It's not too far down the road, Newberry.
But you know, that's not for everybody. No. And you heard the statistics at the opening of the show. We don't have jobs to fit the skill levels of all of those college graduates. And we have a shortage of people in the mechatronics and welding and automotive technician and HVAC and so many areas. And we just need to provide more opportunities in our high school so kids can discover what their talents are and what they really enjoy doing, and open up more doors of opportunity for them.
And what's interesting from the technical college viewpoint, many of those four-year graduates are coming back to the technical college system to pick up that credentialing, those backable credentials for employment.
Sonny White is the president of Midlands Technical College. He told me, Mick, 20% of my students have four-year degrees. What they don't have are any marketable skills. And that's why they're going back to the technical college, to get those marketable skills.
All right.
I just wanted to ask Carla one quick question as far as how the technical college are actually involved with these apprenticeship programs? You have about 30 seconds to answer, but I would like for you, for you to answer that for us.
Our technical colleges are an integral part of this process because about 90% of the companies that we work with engage the technical colleges on that education side. So they are vital to our process.
Okay. And how do businesses actually benefit from the help that you all give to them through apprenticeships?
Businesses actually reap the benefits of a highly skilled workforce, and here in South Carolina we offer companies a $1,000 South Carolina state tax credit for every registered apprentice that they may have. That can actually be used in tandem with any on-the-job training dollars that Duke can fund, as well as any other federal tax credits that would be available too.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, Scott.
All right, there's a lot of functional information being shared tonight on this program, and we want you to know that you can go to the ETV website, specifically the page for this program, Education Insight. Log on to that, and we'll have plenty of supporting materials here, especially for those of you who are at that vocational crossroads in your education. Closing concepts right now. I tried to call you out on the four-year degree, and I think we've addressed that enough, but where are we in attracting foreign investment? And I think we only have seconds to answer this. Cheryl?
The most important thing is workforce development, and the most important thing is us all working together, finding the programs in the state that are working and continuing to grow those programs in tandem.
All right.
And I would say South Carolina is doing a great job, which is why so many companies are moving to South Carolina.
Well, the proof is in that pudding.
Because our technical colleges are working with them.
All right, we are out of time. I've got a hard wrap. Thank you for watching Education Insight. We'll see you again soon, and I'd like to thank again all of our panelists for taking part.